Let's talk about the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem says if you have a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If you label the legs of the right triangle as a and b, and c is your hypotenuse. It's very, very, very important that c is the hypotenuse. So look, I've given you two sample triangles right here. I made them the same. So notice C is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the side that is directly across from the right angle. It's like this right angle right here, this corner of it points to that side. This side is the hypotenuse. And then this side right here is just a leg, maybe like 1. And this is leg 2 of the triangle. Notice on this triangle right here, I've labeled this leg on this horizontal leg on the bottom A and the vertical leg B. This next triangle is also labeled appropriately. Here's the right angle right here. And remember, this corner points to the hypotenuse. So here is a leg, call it leg 1, and here is leg 2. Want to point out something really important. I've labeled both of these as leg 1. This is the horizontal component of this triangle. But I've labeled this one with an A, it becomes a B. Leg 2, the vertical, notice I wrote leg 2 for both vertical pieces. I have changed the letter. So you're allowed to do that. Either of the legs can be A or B, doesn't really matter. The only thing that must happen is C must be your hypotenuse. So let's do an example. I have one right here. Okay, so do you see that in this case I have labeled two legs? One of the legs has length 5, the other leg has length 6. We want to figure out how long is this side over here. Well, turns out this side is the hypotenuse. We know a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Another way to think about this is like leg 1 squared plus leg 2 squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. Okay, so if you want to, you could call this A, this could be B, and then we're looking for C. If we do that, then A is 5, so you have 5 squared plus B is 6, so we're going to look at 6 squared, and that's equal to C. C is your hypotenuse. C squared. We don't know what that is, so I'm going to write it as a C. So what is 5 squared? Well, 5 times 5 is 25. What is 6 squared? So 6 squared is equal to 36. So what's 25 plus 36? I think that's 61. So 61 is equal to C squared. We take the root of both sides, take the square root. So the square root of 61 is equal to C. That may be your answer. Depending on your math class, you may want a decimal approximation for that. So maybe they ask you to round to 1 or 2 decimal places. Let me do that. Or C is approximately, let's just do 1 decimal place, 7.8. Again, depending on your math class and if they want a decimal or leave it as a root. Okay. I want to point out something really important here. Look at the legs. I'm going to go back and say this was A was 5, B was 6. Now we're saying C is 7.8. Every single time you have a right triangle, the hypotenuse will be the biggest side, okay? Because it opens across from the biggest angle. If you look at the angles here, this angle is pretty small compared to the right angle. So is this one. The angle that's the biggest is across from the longest side. Let's try some more. 2 more triangles right here. So I am missing a leg, right? There's a leg that's not labeled. So I can name it whatever I want. Maybe let's call it A. So maybe let's call this A. Maybe let B be 2. This is C. Every single time the hypotenuse is your C, that must happen. So again, remember the formula was A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Or you could think about it as leg 1 squared plus leg 2 squared equals your hypotenuse squared. So we're looking for A now. We don't know what it is. A squared plus. Well, B is 2, right? So here we're going to have a 2 squared. And now we're going to plug in c equal 3. So we're going to have c is 3, then we're going to square it. 3 squared. So we have a squared plus, well, 2 squared is 4, and 3 squared is 9. Okay, so then we're going to have a squared plus 4 equals 9. So if you need to, you can subtract 4 from both sides. So a squared equals 9 minus 4. So we see that a squared equals 5. Okay, but I don't want a squared, I want a. So a is the square root of 5. Square root of 5 is 2.23607. So if you're going to round to 1 decimal place, you would say a is approximately 2.2. And I want to point that out again. If I look at 2.2, my hypotenuse is bigger than the other two legs. Okay, these two sides, my legs, have to be smaller than the hypotenuse. So this would be your answer, either this or this, depending on your directions. If you were asked to leave it as an exact answer, it's the square root of 5. If you want a decimal approximation, it's 2.2. Okay, here's a bigger one. So remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C always has to be my hypotenuse, has to be the side across from this right angle. So this side is c. If you want to label this, I'm going to change it up just a little bit. I'm going to call this side a now. It doesn't matter. I'm doing this on purpose. You see, it doesn't matter. Okay. Remember, I could also say that you have leg 1 squared plus leg 2 squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. It's another way to do it. So let's solve this down here. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, a is 7, right? So 7 squared. B is 12, so I have 12 squared. And I'm looking for the hypotenuse squared. Well, 7 squared is 49. 12 squared is 144. And I'm going to add those up. I get 193 is c squared. So I want to take the square root of that. A square root of 193 is equal to c. That would be an exact answer. And then if you want a decimal approximation, or you say c is approximately, well, it's 13.8924. That's 4 decimal places. I think some people want 1 decimal place, so 13.9. Again, I want to point out the hypotenuse, 13.9, is bigger than the other two sides every time. Hypotenuse is always going to be the biggest side. Let's do another triangle. Okay, so this time again I have left off the hypotenuse. So this must be c every time. The other two letters, doesn't really matter which one I write for A or which one I write for B, but this little right angle right here points to my hypotenuse. Okay, so just for fun, I'm going to label this one A and I'm going to label this one B. It doesn't matter, you could have switched them. We know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, so 110.6 squared plus 71.1 squared equals c squared. Okay, and let a calculator do this for you. So you could type this in as 110.6, hit the caret key, squared equals plus 71.1 caret. Now your caret may not look like that. It may be a y to the x button like this on your calculator. Squared equals. Okay, and that's going to give you, when you type in all this, it's going to be the same as typing in this. Okay, equals. So let's see what happens when I type that in. Okay, when I do that, I end up with 17287.6, and there's more decimal places. It's actually 0.57. Okay, this is equal to c squared. Now take the square root of that. And I am going to round this one to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to take a square root. This is equal to c. When I do that, I get 131.482, and this is an approximation. So if you're going to round to, let's say, 2 decimal places, you would say c is approximately 131.48. Okay, I want to point out one more time. 131.48. 131.48. Again, this is an approximation that is bigger than the other two sides. It will be every single time. So in summary, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but c is the hypotenuse every single time. Okay?